You know, it's crazy. It's been months since I've posted a video, and I've played a lot of really, really cool stuff. Like, I've played, like, I don't know, some cool stuff. But, first video back, and I decided to post it on Old Faithful. What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. This is Dual Factory. And as you can tell, it's going to be a deck profile with Alistair the Invoker. We've had a lot of stuff come out, including the new Azamina cards. There's been versions of this that play Bystial and stuff like that, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of different engines in it, but I figured if I was going to start doing content again, I'd show you something that I've been enjoying playing. I played this last week. I actually had a lot of fun with it. I didn't take a loss, but we didn't have a great finish either, but it was really cool. I enjoyed playing this. I figured I'd show it to you guys. And I'll go ahead and show you the list. And for those of you who used to watch my content all the time, as you know, deck lists are also in the description below. If you don't want to watch the whole video, you'll be able to see that link, so that way you can see every card that I played. Enough about that, let's go ahead and get into the actual profile itself. So for every Alistair deck, it's pretty straightforward. You always end up playing 3 copies of Alistair the Invoker. You do want to see the man. There are some instances where you could probably play less copies of this, but as long as I've played them, I've always played 3. It just seems to be the correct number. Different from most Alistair decks, I'm only playing 1 copy of Invocation. You don't really want to draw this card, you just want to search it. Alistair is a hand trap magnet, so sometimes the best way to play through the hand traps is drawing into Invocation, right? But because we're playing so many multiple engines, it's not the focal point of the deck, so I decided to play 1, and if it gets banished, it gets banished. And then we're also playing 3 more copies of Alistair and 3 copies of Magical Meltdown. For those of you who don't know what it is, it searches Alistair, but it also has a branded lost effect, whereas your opponent cannot negate the activation of a fusion summon, and then your opponent's cards cannot activate when a monster is fusion summoned. That's basically the synopsis of that card. And then you do play the 1 terraforming to search it, which we have more copies, but we don't. Now on to the Azamina part of the deck. So because we now have a Sinful Spoil card that can be searched, you play 2 copies of Black Witch, and to go alongside, you play their fusion spell, which is the Hallowed Azamina. It can't be searched by Black Witch, but Wanted can go get Black Witch, and Wanted can also go and get Deception of the Sinful Spoils. So at this point, if you've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At a competitive level, you know what Wanted does. Adds a Diabellsar from your deck of grave. You can banish it, target a Sinful Spoil cards, and graveyard banish, draw an extra card, right? Deception of the Sinful Spoils, you contribute a monster from hand or field, and you can add 1 Azamina card from your deck to hand. The only one that we play in the main deck is Hallowed Azamina, and Hallowed Azamina lets you send Sinful Spoil spells or traps to the grave. I believe it's spells or traps. Let's see here. Send Sinful Spoil cards. My bad. And then you can special summon or fusion summon a Azamina fusion card for every 4 levels. You round down. So, like, for example, the import ones are 6, so you only have to send 1. And that's it for the Azamina portion of the deck. And then, because any deck that can generate 2 cards is full Fiendsmith combo, obviously we play Fiendsmith cards. We play 2 Fiendsmith Engraver and 1 Lacrima for the dedicated Fiendsmith engine cards. Note, Fiendsmith Engraver is a light, so it does allow you to make Mechaba if you have to banish it, which is pretty cool. We do play the honorary Fiendsmith card in Lurie, 1 copy of Tract, and then I consider this a Fiendsmith card, but 1 Angel Statues Azarum, because as you know, every Fiendsmith combo you do in your deck can always end on Silhouette Rabbit, so why not? And then that's 3 different engines, but you do need a supplementary engine, I think, that works well with Alistair, as well as the ability to play more non-engine in your deck. So to compensate that, we are playing the Bystial Lubellion. A popular version of this deck is Invoked Bystial whenever these cards come out, and Lubellion is actually just an insane card because it gives you access to Branded Regain, which is really insane with Invocation, because you could very easily, for example, a popular Invoked play is Alistair link into Moon Maiden. You can Invocation, banish the Moon Maiden, Alistair, make Mechaba, right? Well, now you don't have access to a link 1, or you don't have access to that specific link 1. So, for example, if you do it with Branded Regained, you banish the matches Moon Maiden. Well, now you can put Moon Maiden back to the extra deck, draw a card, and then the Alistair is actually going to add itself back. There's some other really cool interactions with it, like when you make an Invoked Oikoides, banishing Mechaba to do so, you can put the Mechaba back, so you realistically only need to play one, so on and so forth. Because there's not as much room due to all the different engines in the deck, we are only playing 3 level 6 Bystials. So we're playing 1 Magnemite, 1 Jerusalem, 1 Baldrake. Magnemite's by far the best one, so we obviously play that. If I could play more copies, I would. You also play the 1 Jerusalem, which is really good for removal, and then the 1 Baldrake as a good interruption. And then for hand traps, because this deck still has room for, I believe I have 12 more non-engine slots. Yeah, 12 more non-engine slots. So we have the new Molcharmy, which is Molcharmy Fuwalos. Spoiler alert, most of my profiles will have this card in it, so if it's budget friendly, I apologize in advance. But if you have access to one of the best hand traps in the game, you probably should play it. I'll just be 100% honest with you. You could also play Molcharmy Perulia in most decks, but as I feel in terms of hand trap selection, this is probably the only one that you should main deck while citing the other one. That being said, the only deck I think it's proper to shotgun this against is the Yugioh deck, simply for fear of Phantom of Yugioh, but Game of 1 I'm never shotgunning this card. And most of the time I'm not shotgunning it either. You kind of have to hold it, see if your opponent actually plays into it, or for those of us who are old enough to remember playing Zoo format, holding on to Maxi and make him commit so that way they actually get the full advantage out of it. That's one of the ways I like to play this card. For generic hand traps, other than Fuwalos, obviously, you play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. It's the most generic one. It's not much to say on that one. 3 copies of Impermanence. And then 2 copies of Naguru, the Primal Being. This, honestly, in this particular list, probably should have just been Ghost Ogre, or it could have been anything else, really. But for my locals, I just played 2 copies of Naguru, the Primal Being. And that's it for the main deck. It is an even 40 count. On to the extra deck. For the Invoked Fusions, we play 1 Mechaba, 1 Oikoides, and then 1 Purgatrio for the actual fusion monsters. Reality, it probably could have just been these 2. I just like playing the Purg whenever I have any sort of fire hand trap in my main deck, or, for example, the most popular deck is a fire-based strategy, so Purgatrio makes a lot of sense, right? However, it doesn't really come up when you summon it, because 9 times out of 10 when you're playing this deck, I'll be real with you, you don't actually have access to your Invoked engine. It's mainly Azamina Fiendsmith is what you're really doing. Plus, when you play Braided Regained, you essentially have infinite copies of these cards, because you're recycling one or the other with Regained almost every single turn. Like, you turn 1 make Mechaba, turn 2 make Oikoides, banishing the Mecha, put back with Regained. Realistically, the game should be over. But if it goes to another game, you could banish the Oikoides to make Mechaba, and then put the Oikoides back and keep the loop going. But those are the ones I chose to play. Realistically, Purgatrio will probably be cut, but that's for a later time. And then the obligatory link when you play with it is the Artemis. Sometimes you do what it used to play, Secure Gardena and Almirage, because it gave you 2 attributes. And it works really good with the Dogmatica package, but as you can see in this list, we don't play the Dogmatica package, so you realistically only need 1, and it also helps save on extra deck space. For the Fiendsmith-esque extra deck cards, you play 1 Moon of the Closed Heaven. If you have any 2 monsters, you can make this as long as they're effect monsters, and that's full Fiendsmith combo. The 1 Rec Room, the 1 Sequence, Lone Fire Blossom, Miracle Fusion, the 1 Desiree, and then the obligatory Silhouette Rabbit, which might as well be considered a Fiendsmith card because every single combo can end on that. And then for the Azamina cards, we played 3 fusions. We played Rusialago, Sylvia, and then Erisithon. I don't know where you just call him Soul. Don't realistically know that in this deck you need to play this, but being able to search 1, it seemed pretty good to me. This is an Omnigate. That card's really good. And then for those of you who don't know what this is, it's spot removal. So when it's fusion summon, it can target 1 card on the field and send it, not destroy, which is really cool. And then if you'll notice the materials, they all require an illusion monster, but he requires an illusion monster and a fiend monster. And what's really cool about him is every single Snake Eye board that I know of ends on Silhouette Rabbit and some sort of fiend monster, so you basically get to make that for free. And then the last 3 slots in the extra deck are for generic cards. So for example, we play Super Poly, so I did play Stapelia. This realistically probably just could have been either Mudragon or Garura, but I decided to play that. 1 Chaos Angel, it's essentially a Link 2. and then 1 copy of SP Little Knight. And that was, we'll call this Invoked Azamina Fiendsmith. That is a mouthful, but I actually really like this deck. Problem is as good as those other engines are, I don't think they're good enough to make Alistair competitively viable. But it's definitely a really cool deck to take on a local spin. Other decks I've been playing that I might show you guys, me and John, also known as Bingo HD, whenever we used to do cons together, worked on a Dragon Ruler list that I actually really like, and I'm going to update so that way you guys can actually see it. I also played a lot of Thunder Dragon, which, as many of the older viewers know, Thunder Dragon is probably one of my favorite decks of all time. I'm really excited to show you that one. I've been playing a lot of Bystial Control, or Bystial Fiendsmith. That deck's really cool to me. And a couple of my buddies played some other really cool stuff. Maybe I'll get them to profile some of their stuff. But in the meantime, hope you guys liked the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.